Shalom and all praises to the Most High. So in this video, we're going to be talking about Leandria Johnson. And this is something that I've recently heard. And she made some comments not too long ago about how the Christian church is robbing people. And she also says that the church is a business. So she ended up getting a lot of backlash for this, including getting kicked out of the Essence Fest. But you see a lot of people coming out and doing damage control on this and trying to change the narrative because they don't want this to affect their money. But I think eventually recently she apologized. But the main points that she originally brought out, they were actually right. Let me go over those points. So she said that the church, it's a business and it's a lucrative business. It keeps people broke while the pastors at the head of the church are making money. Okay, this is true. The pastor, he's making a lot of money while others are struggling or the people who are listening to him are struggling because he's really making a good business decision by taking their money. Okay, so a lot of our people are living paycheck to paycheck in this land, in the land of captivity, and we are still trying to pay tithes while doing this. So basically what it does is keep you down because you're not able to use that extra income for anything else. So people they're spending their hard-earned money trying to basically trying to live out that prosperity doctrine that these Christian churches are teaching, saying that you're going to get money by giving pastors tithes. They're thinking that God is going to bless them, but he's not. And so she really says that the church, again, it's robbing you. So really what she was saying was true. Okay, the church is robbing you, and it's kind of like, I compare it to like a business scam, because a lot of these pastors, they're really good salesmen. They're saying that if you give them money, then you'll be successful. Okay, that is what they are claiming. And really, when you take a look at this and logically think about this claim cannot be proven. And in business, when you have a large company making claims that can't be proven, they're going to get fined. Okay, that's what ends up happening. So in this instance, since it deals with religion, that's not going to happen, of course. But when you bring up topics like this, the people who are teaching this, they will really get upset because you are messing with their money. Okay, and they make the ones at the top make a lot of money doing this, teaching this prosperity doctrine. It's a lucrative business. And even the people listening to these pastors, they can get upset, or these teachers, they get upset because basically they want to believe in this prosperity doctrine. They want to believe that if they just give their money, then, just magically, or, the Most High is going to make them have a lot of money as well. What they don't realize is that the church is running like a business and they are not. Okay, so a lot of times these teachers, they are mainly teaching for money, and they deceive you by saying that they love you, that they may hold events and do things in church and sing songs. But remember, these people are great salesmen and persuaders. So I bet you this, if they could not make any money doing this, they would never teach anything in the Bible. But most, because really most of them, especially the ones, I'm just talking about the ones at the top especially, a lot of them are in it for the money. You see them with all these, mansions, nice cars, and, private jets, things of that nature. Okay, a lot of these people are actually teaching deception. Not only do people in the churches do this, but individuals also who are teaching on YouTube, maybe Facebook too, and a lot of people who actually call themselves Israelites are doing the same thing. Okay, they are teaching in this prosperity doctrine that connects to tithes. So what the church will do is say, and right now I'm talking about the mega churches especially, but this goes down to other churches too. So they'll tell you, hey, you need to pay me tithes, which they call money, and they say you need to pay it to me because that's what the Most High is telling you to do. And if you do that, you will be blessed and you will be prosperous. And these people are looking at how successful these pastors and teachers are, and they're like, hey, let me do this so I can be successful like them. Okay, you are just basically giving away your money to someone who is deceiving you, and you're not going to be blessed by doing that. You're not going to be blessed by giving your money to someone who is deceiving you. Now, before I get into how the tithes and how this tithing law is actually being incorrectly taught by these pastors, I want to address that. It's okay to give donations, okay? But it's not okay to give donations to someone who is deceiving you. It's okay to give donations, okay? Let me say that first. The reason why I'm saying that is because when you look at the tithing law, and this is not what these pastors are teaching you, this tithing law was not meant for you to be giving people who are teaching you money. And before I get into that, people giving teachers money to teach them is actually against the laws of the Most High and Spirit of the Most High, and what we see throughout the Old Testament. I'm going to say that again. People giving teachers money to teach them is against the laws and the Spirit of the Most High. So first of all, in the law, parents, they are commanded to teach their children. Okay, you can find that in Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 7 and Deuteronomy 11 verse 19. Now when we go to the book of Micah chapter 3 verse 1, and we're going to do that, Micah 3 verse 1, you'll actually find that the Most High doesn't want you to be teaching for hire. Of course, when we looked at the part where what I just said before, the parents are supposed to be teaching their children, of course you're not going to be getting paid for that, right? Now, when you go into Micah chapter 3 verse 1, it says, "And I said, Hear, I pray you, O heads of Jacob, and ye princes of the house of Israel. Is it not for you to know judgment?" Now, who is this person speaking here? This is Micah, okay? So he's talking to the heads of Jacob and the princes of Israel. You'll see why. Let's skip down to verse 8. It says, "But truly I am full of power by the Spirit of Yahuwah, and of judgment, and of might, to declare unto Jacob his transgression, and to Israel his sin." So Israel at this time, they were in transgression and they were sinning. Micah was calling them out for this. Let's see some of the things that they were doing. Verse 9, "Hear this, I pray you, ye heads of the house of Jacob, and princes of the house of Israel, that abhor judgment and pervert all equity." So these are some of the sins that they were doing. Let's keep reading. "They build up Zion with blood and Jerusalem with iniquity." These are not good things that they are doing. Keep in mind this context as we move on to verse 11. "The heads thereof judge for reward, and the priests thereof teach for hire, and the prophets thereof divine for money. Yet will they lean upon Yahuwah and say, Is not Yahuwah among us? None evil can come upon us." Let's see what's going to happen to them because they are doing this. Verse 12, "Therefore shall Zion for your sake be plowed as a field, and Jerusalem shall become heaps, and the mountain of the house as the high places of the forest." So right here, that's destruction coming to Israel. So these in verse 11, it talks about the heads judging for reward, them getting money for that, and then the priests teaching for hire, and the prophets divining for money. These were all sins that Israel was doing at one point in time. The Most High did not want Israel to do this. This is why he's having Micah, warn them to stop doing that. So teaching for hire, being a prophet and divining for money, that is actually against the Spirit of the Most High. So you're not supposed to be doing that. These pastors and everything that are telling you to give them money because they are teaching you, that is against the laws of the Most High. So another thing these pastors and teachers will do is use fear tactics on you. They'll say things like, if you are not giving money to me in this church, then bad things might happen to you. The Most High will basically curse you. So this is something that a lot of these preachers and teachers teach, and it puts fear into people to get them to give these pastors and teachers money. And like I said before, these people are great salesmen and persuaders. They're using fear to get people to give them money. And they try, and this is what they try to do, right? So they tell you that the law is done away with. Keep that in mind. But they go into the Old Testament and use the tithing law to try to say that you need to be giving them money, and that is according to the law of the Most High, you need to be giving them money and stuff. Okay, this is really ironic, and it's a contradiction. If they're saying the law is done away with, that means the tithing law shouldn't apply to them. what you have to understand is that they're not even teaching you this tithing law right. They're teaching deception. Because when you actually go into the tithing law was not actually something that was meant for just anybody. It was not money. Okay, and I'll explain why. So we're gonna go, and I'm basically gonna go into the Bible to explain this too. I'm not just saying this out of my own mouth. This is something that is in the Bible. Okay, so whenever we try to, go and teach, we should always reference the Bible to get an understanding of what the Most High wants us to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the book of Deuteronomy, and we're going to go to chapter 14. Deuteronomy chapter 14, and we're going to go to verse 22. Deuteronomy 14 verse 22. In these few verses we're going to read, you'll see actually what tithes are and who they are for. And you also see what tithes aren't. So Deuteronomy 14 verse 22. It says, "Thou shalt truly tithe all the increase of thy seed, that the field bringeth forth year by year. And thou shalt eat before Yahuwah thy Elohim in the place which he shall choose to place his name there, the tithe of thy corn, of thy wine, and of thine oil, and the firstlings of thy herds and of thy flocks, that thou mayest learn to fear Yahuwah thy Elohim always." So right here is saying that the tithe was all the increase of the seed that the field bringeth forth year by year. So that was part of what the tithe is actually. The tithe, what you'll find in the Old Testament, is actually going to be food. So when you look at, and it's not money, verse 23, when you look at verse 23, it says, "And thou shalt eat before Yahuwah thy Elohim." What are you supposed to be eating? This tithe. Okay, it says, "In the place which he shall choose to place his name there, the tithe of thy corn," something that you can eat, "of thy wine," something you can drink, "and of thine oil," okay, something you can eat, right? "And the firstlings of thy herds and of thy flocks," meat that you can eat. So this is what tithes are. It's food, not money. And let's confirm that. "And if the way be too long for thee, so that thou art not able to carry it, or the place be too far from thee, which Yahuwah the Elohim shall choose to set his name there, when Yahuwah the Elohim hath blessed thee, then thou shalt turn it into money, and bind up the money in thine hand, and shall go into the place which Yahuwah the Elohim shall choose." So this right here is basically a law that is saying if it's too hard for you to actually transport the tithe, if it says right here, if the way be too long for thee, and if you're not able to carry it, it's too far from thee, and this is talking about where you are from the place where you're supposed to actually give the tithe, then if that's the case, you're supposed to turn it into money. You're supposed to turn the tithe into money. What this does is separate tithes from money. You're supposed to turn the tithes into money. So turn also, meaning change it into money. There's a difference between tithes and money. They're not the same thing. "And bind up the money in thine hand." Notice how it's not talking about the tithe. You're binding up the money in thine hand. "And thou shalt go into the place which Yahuwah thy Elohim shall choose, and thou shalt bestow that money for whatsoever thy soul lusteth after, for oxen, or for sheep, or for wine, or for strong drink, or for whatsoever thy soul desireth. And thou shalt eat there before Yahuwah thy Elohim, and thou shalt rejoice, thou and thine household." So this is actually talking about the tithes being given to people. So if the place is too far from you, to transport the tithe, then what you can do is change it into money, exchange it for money, and then what you're going to do is turn it right back into the tithe, which was considered food. Oxen, sheep, wine, strong drink, all that. So let's see who the tithe was for. We know that the tithes was food. We know that the tithe was not money. Let's see who the tithes were for. Verse 27 says, "And the Levite that is within thy gates, thou shalt not forsake him, for he hath no part nor inheritance with thee." This is why the Levites were actually what you'll see here. Let's keep reading. "And at the end of 3 years thou shalt bring forth all the tithe of thine increase the same year, and shalt lay it up within thy gates. And the Levite, because he had no part nor inheritance with thee, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow, which are within thy gates, shall come, and shall eat and be satisfied, that Yahuwah thy Elohim may bless thee in all the work of thine hand which thou doest." So all the tithe was actually so basically the tithe was for the Levites, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow. That's who the tithe was for, so that they could eat and be satisfied. This was a law that was supposed to be done in the land of Israel. You weren't supposed to do this while you were in captivity. This is a law that was done. Notice it says within thy gates and all that. So this is actually talking about something that's supposed to be done while you were in Israel, while you had Levites who were the priests, and it was just so you could take care of them. The Levites, they didn't have an inheritance. Strangers, fatherless, widows, all these people, they were kind of the, people that needed also help being taken care of. So the tithe was food. It was for the Levites, the strangers, the fatherless, and the widow. It was not money. Now people may say, well, at that time, your income was cattle, sheep, oxen, all that stuff. And what they are discounting, they're trying to say that, if the tithe at that time was food, but the tithe now is money. What we have to understand is that the Israelites at this time, they did have money, okay? The Israelites at this time did have money. We can see it right here, because it says when these people got the tithe, they were supposed to, it was too far for them to transport it, then they could change it into money. So what we have here is a distinction between tithes and money. And the Israelites, they did have money at that time. So it's not right to say that our income now is money, so that's what we're supposed to be giving. First of all, like we said, in the Bible, the tithe is not for any pastor. It's not for any pastor. It's for the Levites, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow. The tithes were food. It was not money, and it was given to these people in the land of Israel. Since we are not in the land of Israel, we don't necessarily know who the Levites are, and that means we should not be giving tithes according to the law. So really, this of course answers what tithes are, what they're not, and who they are for. But I said donations. Remember, I said donations, they're okay to give as long as you're donating to the right people, not people who are deceiving you, telling you that you need to give them money in order to be blessed by the Most High. So really, Leandria Johnson was right in what she was saying. The church is a business, and it is robbing you. Shalom.